Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to study about the life of Buddha. This is concerned about one of the Buddha disciple. He took care of the water flow before he became Buddhist monk. And when he was about 20 years old, the Buddha allowed him to take the monk ordinations. Since Rahula was still novice at that time, he was around 17 years old. When the Puja, I say Sabatika, to learn from Rahula. And after Sabatika, listening to Rahula explanations of some rules and performance or conduct of monks. So both of them went to see the Buddha, and the Buddha, based on Bhattika, discussed how to take care of the water flow, to give that type of teaching accordingly. So the Buddha told Swatika and Rahula that today I will talk about the topic of how to take care of the water flow. And let me share with you the image. Water flows is one of the special animals in India, here, and in South Asia. So this type of animals help the farmers to plow the earth when in the past there was not any kind of heavy equipment yet to plow the earth. They plow the earth by hand, and they rely on the power of water flows to take care of that type of job, to help the farmers to plow the earth. And here in this sutra, the Buddha has mentioned that a boy need to take care of the water flows in certain ways. And usually in the past, the families would assign some boys to take care of the water flows carefully, so that they don't these animals would help them to plow the earth. So since the Buddha knew that's what Tika was the boy that took care of the water flow before. And that's why he gave the teaching accordingly, so that this new young monk would understand the Buddha teaching clearly. And so the Buddha mentioned that for the one who know how to take care of the water flow, they need to recognize every one of them clearly and easily. They should know the body, the physical forms of the water flows. They should know how to take a shower for this water flow, and they should know how to take care of the any injuries that what the Buddhists may have. They should know how to smoke out the mosquito for water flows. In the past, the mosquito, the flies, and so forth used to harm the water flows because they live outdoor. And the next one, would I say that the one who take care of the water flows, they need to understand, they need to find the safe road apart from these animals. They need to be compassionate and care for these animals. They need to use the safe place for this animal to swim across the river. They need to know where the grass and the clean water for this animal to consume. They need to maintain and protect the area that they let water buffaloes roaming around. And they need to know how to let the bigger or larger water buffaloes that to set good example for the little one. So in the same manner, with this metaphor, the Buddha is taught in Swatika and Rahula that for the monks, they should do so. So if a boy know how to recognize his own water flows, so the monks should recognize the 32 parts that create this body, that compose this body. So in Buddhism, the 32 parts of the bodies, let me share with you. This is one of the way that the Buddha encourage monks to contemplate. So here, the hair, the head hair, the body hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, the flesh, the bones, bone marrow, kidney, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, large intestine, small intestine, stomach, face, brain, and so forth. So these are the body parts that the monks need to contemplate clearly the impurity of them, so that they would not attach too much to their physical body, as well as other the opposites, sex, like male attached to female, female attached to male. So here in that sutra, the Buddha say that in the same way that a boy could recognize his own body flows, physical body, so does the monk. The monk needs to recognize his own body that has 32 parts that compose this body. And the Buddha say further that the monk need to release or let go of all mental fluctuation, like desire, anger, and delusion. in the same way as the boys know how to take a shower, how to cleanse his own body clothes. Yeah. So if the boy need to take care of the injury of the body clothes, so the monks need to protect his own sense organs, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, so that they could be pure, so that they would not be impure by the size, the smell, the taste, and so forth. So that is similar way. So if the boys know how to create a smoke to chase away the mosquito and the flies, so the monks should use the proper principle to teach other people so that they can stay away from the sufferings physically, mentally, and spiritually. That is the analogy when the boys smoke the fly a mosquito away to protect the water buffaloes. The monks should do in the same way, that they should teach some proper teachings, proper dharma, so that the listeners, their followers, could let go of all kind of mental fluctuation, sufferings. And if the boys know how to find the safe road for the water buffaloes to go through, the Buddhist monk should show the way for other people, like the Eightfold Paths, so that they could step out of the sufferings. They could stay away from the greedy paths, from the angry paths, attachment path, and so forth. So that's an analogy. Another analogy is that if the boys know how to take care of the water buffaloes, if the boy know and be compassionate to the water buffaloes, the monks should practice the loving kindness and compassion toward other people, especially the six parameters. Six parameters, that's being generosity, morality, diligence, patience, concentration, and wisdom. So those are the six parameters that monks the Buddhist practitioner should practice. So if the boys know how to choose the safe place for the water buffaloes to swim across the river, so the monks should know how to use the Four Noble Truths to assist and help social beings to swim from the bank of delusion to across the river and reach to the bank of enlightenment by teaching them the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the cause suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to end suffering. That's what the Buddha give the kind of analogy. So the next one, if the boys know how to find the food, and the grass, and the clean water for the water buffaloes to consume. So the Buddhist monk should know how to show others to practice the four places of contemplations, four places of mindfulness, as the cause for liberation. So, and if the boy know how to protect and maintains the place where he lets loose the buffaloes to roam around. So the Buddhist monk should be careful when he interacts with other people and accept the offerings. So if the boys know how to train the big water buffaloes to set good example for the little one, so the Buddhist monk should rely upon the virtue and the strength of their former teachers, a master, to follow through. So again, would I say that for the monks, if they could follow those principles, they could attain arhatship within 6 years. So again, the Buddha is based on how the boys take care of the water buffaloes to teach that type of teachings. So again, let me review that. So at first, the Buddha is remind the Buddhist monk should know how to maintain and control his systems of organs, not to let the sight, the smell, and so forth to contaminate his mind, like the way that the boys know how to take care of the water buffaloes when this has some kind of injury. And if they need to know how to recognize the 32 parts of the bodies clearly, and that's similar as the way that the boys recognize every of his water buffaloes physically. And so the monk is supposed to cleanse their mind to let go of their mental fluctuation, afflictions. It's like the way that the boys know how to cleanse or take a shower for the water buffaloes. The monks should know how to teach the proper teachings so that other people could stay away from the sufferings physically, mentally. It's like the way that the boys know how to smoke out the mosquito or flies to protect the water buffaloes. So the monks supposed to show others the A4 paths. It's like the boys know how to show the safe road for the water buffaloes to walk. And the monks supposed to develop loving kindness, compassion. It's like the way that the boys take care of the water buffaloes, which is loving kindness and compassion. And the monks should guide others by using the wonderful tools so that they can attain enlightenment. It's like the way that the boys know how to choose the safe place for the water workers to swim across the river. So the monks were to teach others the four foundations of mindfulness. It's a way that similar to the boys know to find the good food and drink for the water buffalo. So these are the metaphors of taking care of water workers that based on this type of metaphor that provide this type of teaching for the young monks like Swatika and Rahula. Later on, there's some technical terms like the systems, organs, and the external phenomena, conditions, as well as the four noble truths, and so forth. This young monk could not understand much, and so he asked the Buddha to elaborate, explain for him clearly about those terms. And after that, the Buddha explained further the practice of meditations. After that, Rahula show this young monk how to do the practice of meditation personally. He showed Swatika how to use the cushion, how to sit straight up, how to control the mind while they do meditations. So basically, these six types, six steps for practitioner to follow when they do breath meditations. So the first one is the count of the breath. That's been when we inhale and exhale to count one, inhale and exhale count two, inhale and exhale count three. We continuously depend upon how much concentration we have. So we can count inhale, exhale one, inhale, exhale two, or inhale one, exhale two, depend upon how we want to count. Everyone is different as we are mindful with our breath. The reason why we count our breath because most of the time we are disturbed with, we confused by all kind of concerns, like we concerned about the food, concerned about our conversation with others, concerned about our business, and so forth. That's why we have a lot of distraction. That's why at first we need to count our breath to anchor down our mind. Without counting, it's not easy for us to anchor down our mind. And that's what we call the counting the breath. And the next one is if we count our breath without any vision, we would follow the breath. Again, the breath is one of the object of meditation in Buddhist traditions. We can focus our mind on the colors, the blue, green, white, and so forth. We can focus our mind on the cloud. We can focus our mind on anything that we want to. But please remember that And most of times our mind to try uh, to disseminate between good, bad, black, white, uh, uh, male, female, and so forth. So that's our tendency that we follow since limitless past life. So in meditation, the first step is that we need to pick up any object of meditation that help us to remain neutral. For example, if we focus on our loved one, our spouse, our children, our close friends, and so forth, we have tendency to attach them. And on the other hand, if we focus our mind on our enemies, the one who give us harm, we have tendency to have the anger toward those people, the moment that we think about them. So with this kind of people, our mind swing back and forth between like, dislike, attachment, and hatred. So that's why in Buddhist meditation, again, you need to pick up the neutral object, and the colors, the neutral object, and any things that would not irritate our mind, would not trigger our like and dislike attitude, attachment and anger attitudes. So that's why it is worth to train our mind to be in neutral ground. If we choose those neutral object of meditation, but again, the colors, the flowers, the tables, they can be neutral objects, but we rely on them to contemplate. But for the breath, it's go with us until we pass away. That's why it's there. So that's why in most Buddhist traditions we use breath as an object of meditation, and because it's neutral, it helps us to bring our mind to the current position, a neutral ground. That's why at first we need to follow the breath. And in this practice, the first step is to count the breath until we master that type of counting without any kind of vision. So let's say if in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and so forth, we don't miss counting, we can increase by another minute. Actually, this way, we can start with a minute first. That's why I used to encourage the beginners, the young people, they start short with 1 minute. Don't start with 1 hour, 30 minutes, too long. Because when you sit down, you just play around with your own thoughts. So here, we start with 1 minute. We count inhalation, exhalation, count 1. Inhalation, exhalation, count 2. Inhalation, exhalation, count 3, and so forth until 1 minute over. Of course, within 1 minute is really quick, and we can increase by another minute. That means 2 minutes. So within these 2 minutes, we can count continuously. Now, inhale, exhale, count 1, inhale, exhale, count 2, and so forth. So within 2 minutes, if we don't miss count, we can add another minute. This means the total is 3. So in this 2 minutes, again, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's inhale, exhale, we count 1, inhale, exhale, count 2, inhale, exhale, count 3 for the whole 2 minutes. Whether we have 30, 40, 60, it doesn't matter. That's our physical body has. So we don't need to make a judgment. We don't need to analyze, because it's just our body. Everyone is different. Depend upon our health, depend upon our gender, depend upon our state of mind. So we have different numbers while we are counting the breath. And if we really count of breath correctly in 3 minutes, and we add 1 more minute to 4. And for that 4 minutes, if we really count our breath correctly without missing, but not a minute, it means by 5. And so for up to 10, up to 15, up to 30 minutes, even up to 1 hour. And even if in that hour we don't miss anything, we can move on to the next hour, and so forth until that we master our counting. That means we count clearly and correctly without any kind of listen. Of course, when we count up to, let's say, 5 minutes, this may be about 40, 30, 60, and so forth. We can count, let's say, a group of 10, without 1 to 10 and come back, 1 to 10 and come back, 1 to 10 and come back. That's the way we can keep track with our breath counting. And when we sit for that 2 hours, 3 hours, and so forth, we recognize exactly how many sets of 10 we have done, and it's so clear. From that time on, we don't need to count anymore. Counting is just a way how to anchor our mind at the beginning. So when we master our counting, now the next step is just follow the breath. Now we get inhale, exhale, we recognize clearly inhalation, the air, the warm air, cold air coming to our body, and the warm air coming out of our body. We recognize clearly our sensation. And we don't miss anything. That's the next step, the second step after the counting. And after we follow that kind of breath without missing anything, we are aware of that kind of breath. It's like when we stand nearby the door, the gate, people come into the room, the hall, we know. People get out of the room or the hall, we know. So we're supposed to stand there to watch them, to be aware of the breath, not to push the people out, not to pull people in. That means we're not supposed to push the air out or to pull the air in. We just count our breath naturally. Just let the breath come in and out of the body naturally. We don't use any force at all. Physically, we more relaxed. And mentally, there's no stress at all because we can just be there with our breath. We can observe our breaths as the way they are. And so that is when we follow the breath. And the next one is Rahula taught Swatika that the samatha, the concentration. We can focus our mind on certain object again, whether it's on the breath or on the light of candles or anything that helps us to anchor our mind. So that's this concentration practice. And the next one is what we call insight of vipassana. Vipassana means we can see through everything. We can recognize the way they are. We don't need to analyze anything. Put this way, without concentration, without calm mind, there's no way for us to have the insight meditation. There's no way for us to be mindful of this. For example, let's say if we go to the swimming pool, because the water in that swimming pool is so clear, we can see through on the surface down to the bottoms of the pool. But if we go out to a pond, because of the muddy water, there's no way for us to see through from the top to the bottoms. So do our minds. So if our mind is so calm, so we can see through things that occur in our mind. Or if we can see all the objects clearly as the way they are. For example, in the Vipassana, inside meditation, the Buddha teach us that there's some techniques like we need to contemplate, for example, the impermanence of life. So let's say while we wash the dishes, we know, okay, so we can consume the food slowly, but because we wash dishes with the water, and so the cups, the bowl, the plates now become clean. Or if we observe the weather, today is hot, yesterday was cool, every day is different. Yesterday weather temperature would not be the same as today, and so there is our mind changing movement. The movement, one moment we like something else, other moment we don't like. So with that have contemplation, we see the impermanence principle in the external condition, and in our physical body, our cell, our body cell die and being born every instant of our life, and that's happened in our life. And even when we have a computer, when we have the cars at first, when they brand new, but when we use them for a while, 1 year, 2 years, and so forth, they get dirty, they become old. So that's just impermanent principle. Only when we have the pure mind, we can see things as the way they are clearly. And that's what we call insight meditation. And then, of course, there's many things we can contemplate too. Let's say we can contemplate about how we have the sufferings when we sick, whichever illness we have, whether we have stomachache, headache, and so forth. That's a suffering there. When we stress out so much, when we have anxiety, that is suffering there. And so we can recognize as the way they are. That's why it's called insight meditation. And of course, step by step, the Buddha encourage us, we can contemplate how craving or anger are the sources, are the causes of our suffering. For example, let's say when we go out to work, and of course, let's say every month we have the stable paycheck to spend for our mortgage, our utilities, and others. Of course, if we have extra, we can buy all the items. But if we have the greedy mind, we want to buy more things for us to enjoy. Definitely, things would not fall down from the sky. You need to work hard to earn money to buy. For example, if you have only $1,000, $2,000 per month for our salary, but what happens if we want to buy a luxury car and fancy house? Of course, we have to pay for the knowledge. And if we cannot afford to pay for those mortgages, we need to find one more job, which means we need to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs to get enough income to pay for those luxury, a fancy house. So that is because our greedy mind, or when we deal with other people, if they say something that we don't like to hear, this may irritate our mind. It may trigger our anger. So the job of a Buddhist practitioner is to recognize that type of mind, that type of mental afflictions. So that's what relate to vipassana. That's what relate to insight meditation. To see things of the way they are. And again, this kind of contemplations and some meditation help us to see the way as they are, not to analyze this. For example, when we have conversation with anyone else, if we just listen, just pay attention on what they say without any kind of bias, any kind of judgment toward their conversation, we remain peaceful and we can understand clearly what that person tried to say. But if we have some kind of bias, some type of partial views toward them before they open their mouth, somehow we think that, oh, this is good, not good person, it's not good people. Whichever thing they say is for the disaster, totally wrong, totally negative. With that kind of bias, with that kind of partial views, it's block our views about knowing what they try to explain, knowing what they try to express. But that's why in this insight meditation, we step back and just listen. Whichever thing they say, we recognize. We don't want to analyze. We don't want to come into a conclusion only without prejudice and so forth. So that's just the way that would help us to remain peaceful, to remain calm. So, for example, for the student, while they're taking the test, if they just observe, if they just read the question clearly, and they may know the intention of the professor teacher that put that question. But if somehow the student jump into conclusion, oh, this is tricky question, or this is bad teacher professor. So this type of thought block them, block their wisdom to understand what the question is about. So go back. So that's what we call the vipassana. That's what we call insight meditation. And the next step is to contemplate, to see whether we have any kind of mental affliction or not. If we still have a certain type of mental afflictions, we need to calm our mind. We need to contemplate clearly why we have the affliction. For example, again, when we hold any kind of conversation, if we have the prejudice toward anyone else, if we have anger or cravings, so before someone open the mouth to talk, to express themselves, we impose our views on their conversation, on their views. Again, let's say if we don't like that person, if we claim view that person as our enemies, that they will, whichever thing they say in our views would be wrong, it would be negative. But if we put down that type of prejudice, bias, we can understand clearly what they try to say. So again, if we have not, in this step, if we have not put down any kind of mental afflictions, we have not put down any kind of angry thought or craving, we need to go back to calm our mind so that we can see things more clear, so that we can hear their conversation, their expression clearly. Otherwise, there's no way for us to understand what they want to say. Whether they are our manager, supervisor, or whether they are workers, whether they are employees. So no matter who they are, we need to listen with the wisdom, not to let the mental fluctuation take over our own mind. So let me stop here today because time is up. The next time we discuss further about this type of half a step for us to transform our mind. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. See you soon.